Hey, this is Brennan Allen from Comicon.com. You can see this is not my usual set behind me. I'm still in Kansas City following Planet Comicon. I had the honor this weekend of hosting a couple of panels for Planet Comicon. One of them was Happy Hour, Comics, Cocktails, and Cryptids, which was going to be a live version of our studio show that we do for the YouTube channel. Anton was not able to make it, so at the last minute, Cullen was able to pull in Mr. Macabre, who ended up being a pretty interesting third wheel to our little our show there. My camera broke right when it was starting to record, so Mr. Macabre's wife was in the audience, and she was able to, with her iPhone, to get like 30 minutes of a video of the panel, and we wanted to share that with you. But it starts in kind of a confusing place, so just to let you know where we were in that recording, I'm just going to give you a little intro here. We had already talked about the Kansas City winged demon, which is it's a giant bat that's supposedly big enough that it can shake a house. It's kind of a cool little thing. It's only been seen 4 times, so it's kind of iffy. People aren't really sure whether that fits into cryptid culture here in Missouri or not. The next one we talked about was the Hornet spook lights, which happen to be right next to a highway. So moving lights, they get bigger and kind of go back and forth and come towards you or whatever next to a highway. I don't know if I'm sold on that one or not. Cullen at this point was still on the floor doing some sales, and he hadn't quite made it in. So he came in about 5 minutes after we started, and I had just started talking about the Ozark Howler, which is a giant black cat that lures people in with like baby noises, like a mule or sounding like a child, and then when you get close, it reveals itself and jumps at you and kind of makes this terrifying howling noise and attacks you. So I had just finished telling that story, and Cullen had just sat down, and that's where the recording drops in. So just wanted to let you know where we were when the recording starts, and then I think it kind of ends a little abruptly, but it is a good video. It was a really fun panel. It was very successful. There were a lot of people there, and they were very engaged, and we had a lot of fun with it. So this is Happy Hour, Comics, Cocktails, and Cryptids from Planet Comicon in Kansas City. Thank you for watching.
You guys want to hear a story about? So we do have pumas in Missouri. But when I went to North Carolina, some of you have heard this story before. I went to visit North Carolina, which is where I grew up. And it's a long story, get ready, buckle up. I was at my friend Eric's house, and we were getting ready to go somewhere early one Saturday morning. And I came out of the back room, and Eric was on the phone. I said, "Why are you on the phone so early in the morning?" And he started waving me over, and he says, over here. And he's pointing out his patio window. I go up to the patio, and there's a cougar walking around on his patio. Full-grown cougar. Huge.
Divorcee.
Not a woman. No, it was a cougar was walking around. It's like, man, a cougar. He was on the phone with the police. What do you do when there's a cougar in your backyard? And I said, that's cool. I walked away. And Eric calls me a few minutes later. He goes, Cullen, the cougar ran off. Go outside and don't let it get in the highway. And I said, okay. So I go outside. I walk around the back of Eric's house. I don't see the cougar anywhere. I walk all the way around the house. I walk between his house and the highway. I still don't see the cougar. I get back around the other side of his house, and there's some old tobacco barns over here. I'm standing between these tobacco barns and Eric's house, or the patio door. And I look over towards the tobacco barn, and there in the shadows of that barn is that cougar. And it's down like this, and its eyes are about that big, and its tail is just whipping around. I said, Eric, I see it, Eric. He says, good. Keep an eye on it. And I look back, and the cougar still said, it's watching me, like something out of Ghostbusters. Like, it's watching me, Eric. He said, it's all right, just keep an eye on it. I turn back around again, and the cougar is running at me as fast as it can. Full speed ahead, mud coming up under its feet. It's just running at me. And I just said, it's running at me, Eric. And he leans out the patio door. It's corded phone days. He leans out the door, and he looks at me. And I turn back to the cougar, and it's about where you are. And it leaps. It just goes full in the air.
You did not fight it.
And all I did, I assumed, this is it. All the great things I will accomplish are not going to be accomplished now. And I held my hand up like this. That's all I could think to do. and the cougar hit me. It threw me back like 6-7 yards into some bushes, and it gets on top of me. And Eric lets his little dog out, and the dog comes running at the cougar. The cougar stops attacking me, and it hits the dog, and the dog just spins through the air with this sort of look of perplexion on his face. And then I realized I'm not dead. This thing hasn't killed me yet. I said, Eric, it's all right. He's gumming me. And the dog was just gumming me with the side of his mouth, and I pushed it off of me, and it was the sweetest animal. Besides the time it attacked me, it purred like a kitten. It rubbed up against me the way a cat would rub up against you. It jumped on me like 6 times because I was funny and I squeaked. And what happened was, in North Carolina, you can own a cougar until it's 16 months old. And this was a 16-month-old cougar. This jerk that I went to school with had bought a cougar. And we finally found out who owned it, and he came in an RX-7 to pick the cougar up. And the cougar's name was 8-Ball.
Good tracks.
And he was so happy to be free and jumping and attacking people. And when the guy came to get him, he just laid on his side, and they put a leash on him and they had to drag him away, and just sort of laid there. Because he was so sad to go back and live with this guy in the RX-7.
Because it squeaked away.
I missed that old cougar. He was all right.
So,
I don't know what that has to do with cryptids.
No, I mean, not a lot, but yeah, that would meant the hell word. The other one up there is Momo the Missouri monster, and it's a big dark shape. That's it, big dark shape.
That's accurate.
Do you know anything about
Wildly
Momo?
accurate.
Go for it.
It's very upsetting. I don't know where you're from, but you've got that all wrong.
Let's hear about Momo.
It's Missouri's version of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Other than the pumpkinhead thing, which, you know.
You guys know Pumpkinhead?
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
Well, let's talk Momo.
Okay, Momo.
Wait, pumpkinhead, same thing. Like, come on, man, get it together.
Oh,
Make it connect.
Pumpkinhead and Momo.
Slow down on the booze. I know it's comics and cocktails, but like, it's a little early for it.
They did not have breakfast in my hotel this morning. I'm here on an empty stomach, drinking straight bourbon.
I wouldn't stay at that hotel anymore if I were you.
Momo, go.
Yeah, talk about Momo. He's a Bigfoot.
Every state has their own version of Bigfoot, right? You guys know that. Every state's got their own, the Ohio Grassman, the skunk ape thing in Florida or whatever. Yeah, we got Momo. That's what it is.
But so he's not a blob.
No, that's a Rorschach test. I don't even know where he pulled this thing out.
It's like the Missouri Visitors Bureau. That's where these images come.
You guys ever been to Branson?
Tell the story. What's a Momo?
Bigfoot.
It's Bigfoot.
Man.
That's it?
Just
That's the
lay
whole
on the
story?
sauce, dude. Come
That's the
on.
whole story?
That's the whole story.
It's
It's Missouri Bigfoot.
In Branson, they used to have a Bigfoot ride. Not that like a tour. You could get on a bus and go up into the mountains.
Oh, we talked about this. This is the Anton story.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Anton, our other host for our comics and cocktail thing that's here when you're not here, he and I went on this Bigfoot ride, and it goes up into the mountains, and you pet like a cow. And, you know, there's cows that come up, and you can feed them like at a feed your animal thing. But about halfway through the ride, the announcer says, "We've got reports that there's some suspicious activity out here in the mountains." And
Anton tells it better.
and I'm not telling you.
You gotta have some voice.
There's suspicious activity, and there are drug dealers up in the mountains. There's like a drug dealer area, and when you get there, you realize they caught a Bigfoot, and they got him in a cage. And they said, "We gotta pull into this barn to keep it secret." And they pull into a barn. And I'm not spoiling it because it's gone now, but this is what it was. They pull into a barn, and there's luckily there's video monitors in this barn. Let's see what's going on outside. And you see the drug dealers like using flamethrowers to torture Bigfoot. And then Bigfoot escapes. He escapes and attacks all the drug dealers. And then his arms come down over the bus, and the bus shakes, and they pump cinnamon scent into the air because Bigfoots and Momos are supposed to smell like cinnamon for some reason. I've never heard that, but they say they smell like cinnamon. And Bigfoot shakes the bus, and then they open the door. And when you drive back out, the drug dealer compound is just in ruins, and it's in flames and everything. And then you get out, and they give you a bracelet that says, "Bigfoot says no to drugs."
I don't know.
It is true. And Anton, I've never seen a human being happier than he was going up into those mountains to see a Bigfoot beat up drug dealers.
But you left out the part where the driver was like, he had like 2 teeth, and he had this really heavy Ozark accent.
Well, it's Branson. You put on
Yeah.
a show.
He ain't got your teeth for the show.
Well, I don't count teeth. creatures and people.
So I went and looked. I'm from Santa Rosa, California, and I went and looked up because I was very disappointed with this.
Oh, wait. That's it? That's all you got was those three? You didn't even get the Aberrugi Ridge Runner? From
I did
Montana?
not. I spent 2.5 hours on the internet. I could not find but 4 monsters in the whole state of Missouri, and they're all seen like twice.
There are more monsters than that.
Tell
here
me.
in this
That's
country.
why we're here. Tell me about
Tell
it.
us about the Aborigines.
Let's hear it.
The Aberrugi Ridge Runner. There's a bunch of Satanists that live in Cass County and conjured up this demon. You ever see knots on trees?
Yeah.
It's
I've
not
seen
knots,
trees, yes.
right? Those are the decapitated heads of teenagers roaming around places they shouldn't be. Heads ripped off, stuffed in trees. Boom.
Well, that sounds a lot scarier.
Wait,
than
I like
headlights
that.
next to the-
I like that story.
Yeah, seriously, you guys never heard this?
I've never
Yeah.
heard of the Ridge Runner. He's a demon.
Presumably, I mean, there's Satanists out there and whatnot. Those are the rumors around the water cooler talk, so.
Once again, the Satanists are vilified.
Satanic panic.
Yeah. All right, that's good. I've never heard of it. Tell us another monster.
Yeah, go for it. You got so many monsters. Let's hear it.
Oh, well, there's Donnie. He's a drunken zombie that is frequently seen around Kansas City.
The drunken zombie.
He's harmless. He's an alcoholic. And he doesn't eat brains. He's more into beer. So don't worry. You don't got to worry about that one.
Okay. Others.
Oh, that's all I got. I just got those two. But it's,
You
Can I
just
ask-
told me to shut up. You're like, I got so many. You got 2.
Do you guys know any other cryptids?
Oh, let's hear it, yeah.
What's your favorite cryptid? Anybody want to tell me the favorite cryptid?
Best cryptid gets a book.
I don't know if you've heard this one, but his name is Sinkhole Sam, Kansas Cryptid.
Sinkhole Sam?
Yeah, back in the 50s or whatever, there were a couple dudes basically fishing in the salt flats north of Hutchinson, and supposedly saw a giant worm, snake-like creature that was right around as a car tire, and like 20, 30 feet long. Theoretically, there were some caves.
This guy's got it.
Caves under there. So.
And he burrowed the caves?
Apparently he lived in there, like that's the theory.
Oh, I like that story.
Wait,
Sinkhole
Sam,
Sam.
it's a name. No,
That's
his
all right.
proper name. His proper name is Fubengurkel. I'll lose something.
I don't like Lupin.
All right, if anybody can beat that, they get the book.
Who can beat-
He's
oh,
in the
this-
lead. What you got?
I don't know if I can beat it, but it's my favorite cryptid, the
Let's
squonk.
go. The squonk?
Yeah, have you ever heard of the squonk?
I know.
Thank heavens no.
It is my favorite cryptid because it's just an utterly pathetic creature. It's so ugly that it's also aware of its ugliness. That it's
sounds like my
constantly crying, and if it's ever captured, it dissolves into a puddle of tears, I believe.
Oh, what a sad monster.
It's
What's it called again?
the squonk.
Fubengurkel.
Why are you looking everything up? I like his version better than anything you're gonna find. That is,
This is for my own research.
there was when I was a kid at the state fair, there were these people that made trolls out of pine cones and stuff, and I always thought it had the saddest story because they had a little sheet of paper. My parents wouldn't buy me a troll, but
That's
there's
a
sheet of
truly
paper,
sad story.
and it said, at the end, it says, every time someone says they don't believe in something, a troll disappears from the earth. And I cried for like hours because these trolls, I was afraid trolls were disappearing from the earth.
They were going to be extinct.
Yep. I'm all right. I'm good.
Oh, yeah, from last night. Anybody else got a cryptid they want to tell us about?
There's lots of chupacabra sightings.
But I grew up in southwest Missouri.
Missouri.
Out there, anything that you hear a certain sound, there's something scarier than any of these. You walk around in your van
We're in Southwest
Yeah.
Missouri.
What?
We're in Southwest Missouri.
McDonald County.
Hi, from the Owl Show. Hi, neighbor.
Anybody else got one? Wow, okay, hands,
There's
yes.
lots of chupacabra sightings around the state. So.
In Missouri?
Oh yeah,
I thought that was a border thing though, because we get that in California and Arizona and Texas.
they're all over
I am
the
from California. Did you know
they're
that?
all over the North and South America sightings.
Do you have goats here for them
Oh,
to
yeah.
suck?
The goat suckers. They do suck.
What other creatures?
No, we got a hand right back over here.
There's somebody else had a hand with a cryptid.
Where'd he go? There you go. Yes.
Have you ever heard of thunderbirds?
Yes.
The cars.
Fabulous.
They're gigantic birds. Native Americans spoke about them.
I
They're
was just talking about real thunderbirds.
jet
Yes.
black, like coal black. They have like kind of white rings. So they kind of at first like make you think they're like a condor, but there's been sightings like in the Midwest, like Iowa, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And they're usually like around like thunderstorm activity, so that's why they have the name thunderbirds.
Rock and roll.
I love thunderbirds. Have you guys heard of the piasol bird?
Yeah, over in St. Louis. All bird.
Piasol.
Is it clean
So
house?
right outside of St. Louis, I guess it's in Illinois. There's a cave wall, or rock face, and there's a giant creature painted on it, and it's apparently been painted on it since forever. And it's reported that these pioneers or explorers saw these 3 gigantic creatures. It looks like a lion. It's got a big snarly face. It's got wings. But there were like numerous reports back in the old days where people had saw the 3 of these creatures flying around that area. The piasol bird. That's around this area. And it's really, they've repainted it. Like the paint faded and they've redone it.
Yeah, they
several
actually
times.
moved it once.
Yeah, they moved it, but that painting has been on those rocks since before St. Louis was there.
Oh yeah, supposedly, there's a tribe of Native Americans that lived there, and they took it out of the sky. One of them, posed
Oh, yeah,
it.
he shot it.
down into the Mississippi River. It's literally right along the Mississippi. There's a road called the River Road,
Yeah.
and this giant rock face, and it's the only reason it's in Illinois is because of the Mississippi. Otherwise, Missouri would have had another
There
one.
we go. There we go.
But it's cool. That River Road, first of all, is really cool. Lots of wineries. But you should go and see that piasol bird. It's kind of fun, I think.
It is cool.
Does anybody else have one before we move on? Yes.
Is it okay if it's not in the state of Missouri?
There are no.
I like
We're up here drinking at 11 o'clock in the morning.
I'm from Southern Illinois, so just like west of Carbondale where I live. There, first of all, there's lots of Mothman sightings there. I feel like everybody's always talking about the Mothman forever. But we also have the Big Money Monster, which is near the Big Money River in Murfreesboro down there. And the story goes that the reason a lot of people believe in it is because there was a couple that were both cheating on their significant others in this car out in the wilderness, and they heard some blood-curdling scream. And, they saw something, just kind of like a flash of eyes and like a dark shape. And then they immediately ran to the police station, but they had to expose their affair in order to tell the police what went down. So the idea is there might be something to that, because why would they, go to that much trouble?
Oh,
So this monster.
No. There's another one that's like that.
This is like the 1970s, and then
Right.
there's like other sites.
Yeah. So with that whole story, that whole setup where they were having an affair, they had like a rented house
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
had a car. Yeah. And the whole thing was, it's like, why would we lie about this? We're
Right.
cheating on our spouses,
Exactly.
right? And that was their whole cover story that caused both of their lives to be destroyed.
Right.
But since you're telling a story about a different monster than the one that I know, I'm gonna say that's probably just a great,
It's just one
setup.
of those that's been passed around.
Right.
So this monster was sort of like the original Cheaters, before the show Cheaters came out.
that's what they based the show
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Cheaters, by the way, I'm pitching that today to somebody. It's Cheaters, but with a monster instead of...
Dude, you're giving away your best story ideas. They could have been the next OGN.
Just way more exciting.
And the monster punished people who were cheating on their spouses. Now, she's not here right now, but I'll promise you that cryptid is my wife's favorite cryptid.
All right, so I'm gonna give a book to this guy back here,
Yeah, I do like that.
and I'm gonna give a book to this guy right here. And the third book, I'm gonna give to the first person who could tell me what the real name of Sinkhole Sam was.
Lupin Gloople?
Close enough. Here we go. The record. They're signed on the inside cover by Cullen here, so it does go on eBay a little bit later. We understand.
I have no idea. I have no idea what size it is.
But this was the book that we did the first show on. It's called Gotham City Cocktails. It is fantastic. Like they go through there, and they basically, every drink has a backstory, and it fits into the Gotham lore. And then the drinks are super easy to make, and they were delicious.
Yeah. Did you tell them what our show's about when I wasn't here?
Yeah, I think I talked about it a little bit, but so comics weren't being made, and we were trying to figure out a way to kind of keep each other busy and stuff like that. And then Anton got thrown in the mix. We went through the whole.
Okay, I just want to
But
make
he
sure.
needs some real star power, and that's why I'm here. And you showed up actually late, ruined the whole thing.
No, but the funny thing is Anton, he's a really busy dude, and he misses a lot of shows. And every time he misses a show, whatever monster we're doing, Cullen's like, well, he's obviously a vampire. That's why he's not here. He didn't want to get exposed. So apparently Anton today is Bigfoot.
He's Bigfoot.
And that's why he's not there. Can I tell my story about Santa Rosa now?
Are you from California?
I am from California, Santa Rosa, California. So I was looking, dude, we don't have any cryptids either. One of them was the wild man turned up in 1875, right? Some lady was walking down by the train tracks, and a very hairy man jumped out and started shouting unintelligible words at her.
And that became a cryptid in California.
Very first time this woman had seen a hobo.
Shocker there.
Yeah, oh, man, we get that every day.
But then we had a baseball team, a semi-pro baseball team called the Sonoma County Crushers, because wine country and all that. And the mascot was the abominable Sonoman, because of Sonoma County, California. And it was this Yeti that had like purple all over his feet, like he was crushing grapes. That's the closest thing we got. We've got a drunken hobo by the train tracks, and we have a mascot for a semi-pro baseball team.
What do you got? Who do you think? Which creature is the most famous cryptid? Because I was thinking about this morning. It's either Bigfoot or Nessie.
Well, yeah, Nessie. Nessie is a good one. Because
Mothman's pretty famous. Yeah.
anywhere there's a body of water, they've got a sea creature. Like anytime that you can't see the bottom, they're like something lives there. Something.
Except in Kansas, they got Floopy Floppy.
Blue Big Cloud.
Pooping Gurgle? What the hell was it?
Well,
Pooping Gurgle.
I always heard it's the same thing. There's like a cave system it swims through.
Right.
And it'll show up in different places. That's why you never catch it. Or it's either a time vortex or something.
Whoa, let's not get all sci-fi now. This is a cryptid panel.
So Steve Alton wrote The Meg, which got made into a terrible film, and he also wrote The Lock. Has anybody read The Lock? I really don't want to spoil this, but it's one of the best explanations for what plausibly could be the Loch Ness Monster that I've ever read in my life.
That's it. Don't say anything else.
I'm not going to say anything else, but it's a fantastic book. And it's one of those things where you sit there and you look and you're like, huh, that actually could happen.
That could happen.
Yeah. Not like anything this guy writes. That's
Yeah, because a grape stomping Yeti is feasible.
I told you it was a dude in a costume. They literally paid a 17-year-old to put on this 8-foot costume.
You're saying no snow, no Yeti.
One time when I was a kid, my dad found this gorilla mask. And there was this guy that always walked down our farm road. This is the road outside our farm. And my dad said, I'm going to scare him this afternoon. I'm going to put on that gorilla mask and we'll run out and scare him.
Your dad get shot.
No, but I thought the story needed more. So when I saw the guy coming, I ran down the street and I said that Bigfoot was in my yard. And it ruined my dad's prank, and I think that's the most disappointed I've ever seen my father look at me. As he came out, he's like, "You ruined my prank," and he took the gorilla mask off. And I think that's the only time he was ever disappointed. If you can believe anybody could ever be disappointed at me.
That is soul crushing. Like you get a good gag, you're ready to go.
I ruined it. I was 4 years old.
Beginning of a lifelong career.
I'm ruining stories. I ruined so many stories since then. But yeah, I think he was really disappointed in me that day. Here's the youth Ed.
Have you seen the new logo?
No. You got a logo?
I got logos. So Chris Bryan is a friend of the show. I guess he antagonizes this guy at shows all the time. But he did this logo. What project was that for? It was the beard. It's like Strom's beard and somebody else's
It was
beard.
Kyle Strom, Dennis Hopeless, and I used to do a video cast called Missouri Swagger, where it's basically just talked about nonsense. But he did that.
But the logo is Angry Cullen, because this dude is always pissed. I don't know. But Angry Cullen's like popping out of somebody's hair, and it's like the beard and the hair made like this yin yang, and Cullen's just popping up like out of the top. And I was like, dude, could you make a logo like that for us with Angry Cullen on it? He's like, absolutely. And I was like, how?
I can't wait to see Chris's rendition of me as a fat dude with a hang.
No, so this is great. So the first one that came out was the one on the left right here. And the only notes I gave him, because I had hair at the time, the only notes I gave him was like, hey, that's great. They were like looking at the monster thing, but could you make us the monsters? So like, yeah. So then he sent me the one on the right. But he's so busy, Chris Bryan, that he didn't realize that in like the year that this process was going on that I lost all my hair. So I had to send it back and go, like, dude, I'm bald now. And he's like, do you have a lumpy head? I was like, no. So so the final, so he took a shit.
How happy I am.
It's not accurate though. That's the thing, because I really wanted a scalp.
I like this picture. He usually draws me very unflattering drawings.
But he did it pro bono, so I didn't want to send it back and be like, Cullen needs to be angry in this. And so that's the new.
That's our logo. I like. You gotta send me that.
I did. I sent you 4 different versions of this for notes.
I'm willing to just drop my face on there. You just like a backup guy, like today, you know. Just, on the off chance you need an extra guy, I'll just sketch it on there real quick.
I like it, and I like that I'm the one reading the book because it's like you guys are listening to whatever I say.
I'm just holding the book.
I'm reading it.
Your outline is straightforward.
I'm reading it to you.
And then that's the book. So Insight Editions is the company that made Gotham City Cocktails, the book that we're giving away today. They were gracious enough. This book retails for I think $29.99. It's a fantastic book. Even if you don't like Batman, this is one of the best bar books I've ever had. I am ridiculously stupid when it comes to mixing drinks.
Yeah, you like that. It's a cool book. We do that on our show. We usually make different cocktails that I usually make something I've never tried before. We make different cocktails. And, usually mine are awful. Just terrible, terrible drinks that I power down. We did something called an alien brain hemorrhage. Oh, that
it's gross.
It's real curdly. It's like a.
It tastes
You know what it is. I see it not. It's the worst thing ever, right? It's awful. But I made one because I thought we did an episode on aliens. So I was like, I do alien themed drinks. And I made a.
It's like a pre-mixed cement mixer. Have you done the cement mixer? We put the acid in your mouth, so you do like a lemon and then curly crap in your mouth.
Acid.
So it gets all nasty.
It's acid in his mouth.
You do that.
That's like a terrible idea.
You do that in the glass though. So you've got like what is this, like peach schnapps, and you put the liqueur in the middle, and it makes like this brain curdle thing in the center. They drop through some grenadine, so it looks like blood.
It feels like you're drinking a chicken gizzard.
It's boogers. It's boogers suspended in.
I mean, I'm trying to say something you guys all know. Remember when you drank a chicken gizzard once or twice? That's what it's like.
Is that what y'all do on dessert?
No, but in Texas, I had a chicken lips, and a chicken lips is a shot of tequila with an oyster in it, and it's rimmed. The glass is rimmed with fried chicken, like crumbles off of fried chicken. And I had one day. I didn't want it. I was going to a party that night at a convention, and one of my friends, Brian Hurd, says, "Oh, you got to try chicken lips." And so I did it because of peer pressure.
I'm surprised you didn't say like, "Well, I dated your sister."
And I got so sick at that party. I remember talking to somebody, an artist I was trying to get to do a book of mine, and I was just like, I'm gonna puke all over this dude. I think the oyster was bad.
Yeah, that's what was wrong with the drink.
Oysters are
Well, it was hours later, so this is only one time I've had an oyster. And I will
But
never have
You said the
another.
oyster was bad. They're never good.
I'm talking about like it was turned. It was a bad oyster.
It's a dodgy pint.
I don't know. It was terrible. I just want you guys to know that's a cryptid, the chicken lips. When I was a kid, our cryptids, we had a headless train guy, Mako lights. And if you go out to the train tracks, you'd see a light swinging back and forth.
Whoa. That's a ghost, not a cryptid. I would expect you, someone of your caliber, to know the difference.
Do you guys care?
Is there a distinction?
He was a ghost, but yeah, it's cryptid, cryptid ghost. And he would swing his lantern back and forth, and you'd see the Mako light, and that was him looking for his head. Terrified me as a child.
Was it near a highway?
It was.
No, it's a train station.
Dangerously close to the spook light store.
Train
Some
station.
of the spook light store.
Right, with the
Do we have
lanterns going
Missouri
back and
spook
forth.
lights?
Yeah, we just talked about those a minute ago.
You weren't in here.
Oh, okay. So Missouri spook lights. It's the same thing. We have the Mako lights.
That sounds like the train thing when you come into the station and swing back and forth.
Yeah, seems plausible now, not just lights on the highway.
It's
What's up, buddy?
It's a dude looking for his head. And we had the Devil's Tramping Ground. You know, got Tramping Ground in Missouri, and that's an area of it's a patch of land in the middle of this forest that nothing grows. It's like barren circle. And they say, I'm working on a comic about this thing right now, but they say that that's the patch of land where the devil paces at night when he's thinking up his business that he's going to do the next day. He paces and paces. And if you leave something in the devil's tramping ground, like at night, you put a cup there, it will be gone the next
A
day.
paper cup in the
Anything,
middle of the field.
anything you put in that field will disappear overnight. That's the devil's tramping ground. You like that story, don't you?
Yeah, it's okay.
So I grew up in a rural area. We had cows and chickens and all that stuff.
Was it in California?
It was in California, but we lived in a place one time. They have, I don't even know what the hell. To this day, I don't know what this building is, but it's like a square building. It's maybe 12 feet per side, and it goes up like 20 feet in the air. And it gets skinnier at the top, and then it's got like a right. I have no idea what the hell this thing is, but we all have them in our yards.
We call those a monolith.
Yeah. Was it?
No,
was
it's
it
like-
Planet? Not
No,
Planet.
they had stairs
that
that
was
to
the
the top.
face out.
But they didn't want me going out into this building, and so they told me there were giant rats in the building, right? And I was like 5. You hear giant rats when you're 5. You don't think like possums. You think like people enclosed with rat heads, right? So for the life of me, for my just the entire time we lived south, I would not go within 15 feet of this thing, right? Until one day they took like my favorite toy and threw it at the top of the stairs to mess with me. My cousin Davey was standing at the top of the stairs.
Wait, did you say Damien?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind, the story's telling itself, it's cool.
My cousin Damien was standing on the top of the stairs. He was waiting for me to come up there and get my stuffed animal, whatever the hell it was. I don't remember. But I climbed up the stairs and it's just all the way up. It's dark. I'm terrified. I swear to God, I pissed myself. I get up to the top and Damien jumps out. And without even thinking, I grabbed him and threw him down the stairs. Ran into the house and went to bed. That was it. I didn't know who it was. I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. I didn't know the next day why Damien's arm was broken. But I am not.
Really break his arm?
I did. I am not good at jump scares. I was 5 and I threw. He was like 17 at the time. I threw him downstairs.
I would like to point out, apparently Damien is not the Antichrist.
No,
It's
not.
Brendan.
Yeah, it's Brendan. You threw a kid down the stairs.
He wasn't a kid. He was a man. 17 is a man.
Well, I've always been fascinated by those kind of legends. And when I was growing up, we had woods all around, and we had this tree, this giant tree out in the middle of the pine forest, that had a plow blade that was in the trunk of the tree, like 10 feet up, and it wasn't like sitting in the tree. The tree had grown around this plow blade. I don't know why, and it became this. In my circle of friends, it became this center of stories because it was a haunted tree. Obviously, a giant rusty plow blade was grown up. The tree was growing around it, like the tree as a sapling picked up a plow blade and grew around it up into the.
Or like somebody was working one day and left it there and forgot it for 20 years.
And a tree grew up.
Yeah.
Or I always thought maybe a
I saw
tornado.
that CSI one time.
A tornado threw the plow blade into the tree or something. I don't know how it got there, but it was cool. And it created this, we had this mythology over the big tree. And all of my friends saw a mysterious green light floating out in the woods.
Was it by that highway?
No. Every time one of us went into the woods by ourselves, the green light was out there. We never saw it when we were more than one of us together, but the green light was always out there. I even saw it once
Nice.
by myself.
Were you drunk?
I don't drink.
No. So one of the questions that I was kind of thinking of, trying to figure out how to make us just writing our alcohol on the weekend, is why do you think that cryptids are so prevalent? Like every single civilization throughout time has got these monsters. Like, cave paintings have these cryptids on them. So why do you think our brains keep going to this place and making these monsters?
Yeah. Thought on that?
They're real.
Fair. Fair.
You know, I feel like. Here's my.
You got a thing?
I want to believe so badly. I want those things to be real. I wanted R2D2 to be a real robot. I was really upset when I found out he wasn't a little robot. That there was
His name was there.
Yeah, it made me very sad. I want to believe, and I like to think that most people, even the most cynical person, deep down wants to believe in something else, in some other kind of creature. And there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophies.
That's fair. I kind of feel like as humans, we want to think that we're smart enough to understand everything around us. And when something happens that we don't really understand, we want to just be like, well, it's magic. Like, it's this thing that only I understand because I was the one that saw it. So don't try and come at me with science because headlights don't exist.
Just because it can be explained doesn't make it any less of a miracle, right?
That's still like that. That's good.
Yeah, a little Macabre philosophy.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I don't feel like cryptids are supernatural, right? They're just creatures. We haven't seen them.
I think that if any cryptids really honestly exist, They're the ones in the Mariana Trench. They're the ones in the ocean because the ocean is so vast and we have not explored the thing. You know, they're finding new crafts. Do you know there's a snail that makes its shell out of steel? Like they found this thing, like nothing lives where these snails live.
How big is it?
They're just snails, but they're right next to volcanic vents, so it's like 1 billion degrees. They don't get boiled, and the ore, the like metal that's in the water next to this volcanic vent gets incorporated in their shells. They're steel. They're indestructible snails. That's a real thing.
That's awesome.
But like, whenever they find new stuff, and that's the thing, everybody wants to talk about Bigfoot and stuff, but they found something like 200 new creatures this year because they're being able to go deeper and deeper into the ocean. And it's like, that's where we need to be looking, is not the Ozarks, but the ocean.
Dude, did you see the big? We don't need to go to the Marianas Trench.
Yeah,
That was a big shark.
it's a big shark. You love that movie, don't you?
I did like that.
It was
Right
so
from the
good.
office.
It's funny that you mentioned the Meg, because we talked about the Meg on episodes before, and it's like, the book was so good. And I don't think I've ever had a more disappointing movie experience that was adapted from a book than watching the Meg. And I was like, no.
One, Jason Statham. The man can do no.
The CGI is so
Two,
wrong.
giant shark.
Right.
Three, another giant
You know,
shark.
if it was a drinking movie, if you had a game like every time you could see the pixelation on the CGI shark and you took a shot, I'd be for it. If it was like that level of like cult badness, I'd be like, yeah, let's do this.
You can't enjoy.
Why are you trying to turn my light around? 6 times last night I had to listen, come on, why do you like this? Who hurt you, babe?
But I will say, I love telling stories about when I was a kid. One time my mama hooked us something. We were out on the off of Harper's Island and we were fishing. And my mom hooked something. We don't know what it was. It was a decent sized boat. My mom hooked something and it took our boat and the boat just went whoosh, and it turned around and then it just pulled the boat. It never broke the line. It just pulled the boat. And my mom's she's like, what's I got? What's I got? And it pulled us, I don't know how far. And my dad finally cut it with a knife. And we never knew what she hooked. And it wasn't a buoy because it moved. I mean, it towed us away. Whatever she hooked that night. It was day.
That's what you should have led with. That was the coolest story you told.
That got my mom. I'm talking about my mom.
I'm not.
But yeah, we never, and so I do believe there are things in the ocean that,
Oh, we left with this book. Oh, we still there.
I do believe there are things in the ocean that I mean, obviously there are 200 things that were discovered in the last year. I think at some point we're going to discover something, our new Lord and Master.
There was a clam that they found that was like 2 centuries old, but they killed it trying to count how old it was. It's a 200-year-old clam.
And put it in a chicken lip. And drink the clam, the 200-year-old clam.
You're right, it did go bad.
It did go bad.
That's the shelf life on clams, by the way. It's 199 years old.
We have a friend who's essentially a scientist, and he's essentially.
He's got a degree.
Yeah, that's what we tell him. He's essentially a scientist, but he had never heard that spiders could cast these little balloons out.
Oh, yeah.
Some spiders and they'll fly. And I told him, you know that some spiders they essentially fly.
Did he never see Charlotte's Web?
Well, that's right. You've never seen Charlotte's Web? But he was so horrified. He had a look of, this dude's my age and had never heard that some spiders fly. And
That is terrifying on first, like, if you didn't know that.
Oh, if a black widow had wasps.
I feel like I got walked
that'd be
into
the
that
worst
because
creature ever.
I saw the cartoon, so it kind of prepared me for seeing it in real life. But yeah, no, the egg cases hatch, and then it's like a dandelion.
They cast little balloons.
Except it's little murder balloons.
But I do think, right? Everybody's in agreement. Black widow with wasp wings, the worst. That would change our
I don't know,
civilization.
those things that swim up your urethra when you pee in the water, that's pretty terrible.
With wasp wings, even worse.
There you go. Name it. This is your new state cryptid. It's called the
flurgle gurgle.
yes. It's one of those fish that swims up your urethra. It's got wasp wings. Make it a thing. Spread it.
We could create a cryptid.
Let's do it.
We just did.
Is this your netbook?
But I do think spiders worse with wings. I don't like spiders.
All right, so we got about 5 minutes left here. I get my shirts custom made from a place called Steady Clothing, and I know how much Cullen admires my shirts.
I love every time you tell me they're custom made.
So I reached out to Steady Clothing, and I got you one of your own.
What?
That's you right there.
Look at this shit.
The buttons are little tiki dudes with teeny tiny little penises.
Is that really what that is?
I don't think it's supposed to be, but that's what it looks like. I'm going with it.
No, he's eating a chicken.
It's a chicken. He's taking a shot of a chicken gizzard biting his fries.
Do you guys get look? It does look. I don't know what this is. It looks like he's holding a chicken leg, a drumstick, but in a weird place.
I got one for Anton too, but Anton's not here. I shipped his. Yeah, he put it on yesterday.
This on.
So mine's in the mail, right?
I did not know you existed till yesterday.
You
At least
created yourself into reality. But if you want this shirt that says Cullen, and if you wear it,
don't give away the shirt. I worked hard on that.
all right, fine. I do think it's kind of awesome if someone would wear a shirt that has my name on it.
So typically, panels end with like questions or whatever. Does anybody have anything that you'd like to ask anybody up here? Talk about some more cryptids or radio silence. I love it. Yes, ma'am. There's a movie about that, I heard.
The thing in New Mexico?
But no, basically, if you drive from California over to Florida, you keep seeing these billboards for the thing, and it's all like this stuff blurry that looks really, really cool. And you finally get to like a gas station in the middle of New Mexico, there's nothing around.
I have seen that.
And when you go inside, you pay a little fees to go in the back and see the thing, and the thing, and you know, waste your money, turns out to be a fucking tractor. Because they didn't know what to call it in the day, so like 3 days of on the road driving.
Oh my God.
That's another thing that I'm aware of.
I love it.
And they had a mummy though. They randomly had a mummy in there as well.
So the thing that I was thinking of actually, it's a sideshow attraction. I love sideshows. I will pay $100 to go see a good sideshow. I love them.
There's one in Missouri.
I know, at Uranus. I've been there.
Yeah.
And the sword swallower, it was my giant friend, sword swallower, George the Giant. They're friends. Anyway, so it's this big like tank, right? But it's obscure walls, but you can just see just a little bit of light coming through the tank. And every once in a while you see a flipper and like water comes out. You're like, I gotta see this thing, right? And so you pay the $15 or $20 or whatever to get up there. And you get up there and you look in, and it's some plastic thing. They're like, this is a model of the blah 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 blah. And they've got a jet that's squirting over the side. And the flipper that comes up is the only like realistic part of the thing. So it's got this super realistic fin at the top because it moves back and forth like this, and the whole rest of it is like this plastic model that's like, and it's just like move it back. This is what it does. The whole thing, $20. I bought a shirt.
I love that. I love everything about what everyone has told me about the thing. I'm going to go see that tractor at some point. I have to. I hope I forget that it's a tractor because I really want to be surprised by its tractorness.
That sounds a little bit like the plot of a movie called The Quest that we also talked about. Have you seen it? Yeah. So I started watching The Quest. We talked about this too. Like every movie that I saw in the 80s, I started watching with my kids. I'm like, oh, you're gonna love this. And in 5 minutes, I'm like, God, I'm gonna shut it off because there's something terrible in it. The Quest holds up for special effects. The story is fantastic. Like, there's this cryptid thing, and then when you find out what it is, it makes perfect sense. But the problem is, it's an American movie made in Australia, and they use slang for Aborigines that does not work in 2023. And so I'm begging somebody, please remake The Quest, Frog Dreaming. Please remake this film and just make it so that they're not super racist and not good.
I think they did remake that. It had Jean-Claude Van Damme in it.
I would buy that on DVD today.
Movie. All right. So I think
We got 2 minutes.
Oh, we have 2 minutes.
You got to ad lib for 2 minutes.
I'm not going to remake The Quest. Have you guys ever seen Shockma, though? Let's talk about Shockma for 2 minutes, because if you haven't seen Shockma, you need to see this movie right away. It has nothing to do with cryptids. That's the way this show goes. Shockma is, wait until you hear this pitch, because I really am trying to figure out how to remake this movie. Shockma is about this research facility, and they are testing aggression drugs on baboons.
28 days later, they already did.
No, wait, it's so much better.
Baboons are already aggressive. You don't need to make them work.
They're testing aggression drugs on a baboon. Shockma gets too aggressive, and he starts like attacking people. So they say, okay, we got to put him down. They take Shockma to put him down, but instead of putting him down, they accidentally inject him with more aggression drug. But here's the part that sold me on this movie. The night they accidentally inject Shockma with more aggression drug, they are doing a live action role-playing game in the research facility. So there are these gamers walking through the facility, on a quest, And Shakma is killing them.
I believe they could have hit you on more levels.
And here's the thing, and this is not cool. There's no like disclaimer that we did not harm animals in this movie on Shakma. And what I heard was Shakma hated one of the trainers. So they would always put him behind the camera. And Shakma's big. I mean, if Jason Voorhees walked through this, oh, there he is. If Jason Voorhees walked through this door and Michael Myers walked over here and Shakma came out here, Shakma's the one that scares me because he's fast and mean and he rips people's faces off. But that concept, let's play a role-playing
Yeah,
game.
you said it's baboons?
It's a baboon.
They're known for like raping faces. They're
Well,
vicious.
Shakma eats them. Anyway, go see Shakma. Terrible movie. Amazing concept. I would love to remake it. I'm pretty sure you can't use apes or baboons or whatever they are in a movie anymore.
All right, that is our time. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you, everybody.